Hey, boys and girls, welcome to today's edition of Notre Dame Daily, brought to you by Fan Arch. I'm Pete Mulroy, and some big news and positive news out of Notre Dame's secondary. The Irish defense, as I talked about yesterday, was better in spots Saturday against Purdue, particularly in the second half, but after allowing almost 300 yards of total offense and 23 points across the first 30 minutes, one could safely assume that more changes were coming. As such, Tay Johnson has been bumped up the depth chart and is now going to start at safety opposite of Don Schuler. Johnson takes over the gig for Jalen Stroman, who's now listed as the number 2 behind the freshman. Johnson really turned heads, as we know, during the offseason, particularly impressing even more during fall camp. So you knew there was going to be a significant role for him this season through 3 games. All of which included solid play despite some of the big play surrendering and lack of a pass rush we've seen from Notre Dame's defense. Johnson has solidified himself as one of the most reliable players on that side of the ball for Marcus Freeman, Chris Ash, and Mike Mickens. As such, he's earned the title of starter. Stroman actually outplayed Johnson from a snap count perspective against Purdue. But I think it was again fairly safe to assume that the solid play that we saw from Johnson leading up to that game was strong enough of a sample size, and rightfully so. Saw the field much more against Miami and Texas A&M than Stroman did, so you kind of had a feeling that this was coming on the season. Johnson's got 9 solo tackles, a couple of pass breakups, but it's his sheer athleticism and to take away the over-the-top option for opposing quarterback that really stands out. He's also got a knack for reading the QB, which is something you want in your starting defensive backs. The kid's range and coverage is why he considered a massive part of the future back there for the Irish. And while this is great news for Notre Dame's defense as a whole, I think just conversationally and being honest, I think most of us saw this coming. Obviously there's going to be a role for a lot of these guys in Notre Dame's secondary, especially with some of the injuries we've seen most recently to Smith and Moore. But you got guys like Thomas and Golden stepping up, the Mark Zachary's of the world, Carson Hobbs. There's a role here, obviously, for Stroman, but I think the better move, as we've been saying for a couple of days and weeks now, particularly with the start this defense had against Miami, Texas A&M, and then, quite honestly, it was better, but in spots against Purdue, that getting the likes of guys like Johnson, KVA, even Madden Ferramos of the world on the field more consistently was the right thing to do from a talent and playmaking perspective. So seeing this is great news, but it would be fair to call it the opposite of surprising. Flipping to the other side of the ball now, and for the second time in 3 games, Irish wideout Jaden Greathouse failed to record a reception. This is a young man who exploded last season during the CFP run, so expectations were naturally high for the Texas native. Notre Dame hung 56 on Purdue on Saturday, as we all know, where C.J. Carr, 10 of 12, threw for over 220, while further building his rapport with Malachi Fields. That's great. But Greathouse, who possesses incredible speed and run-after-catch ability, logged 17 snaps. More shocking, though, was that he wasn't targeted on one of those 17. This weekend, the Irish are up against an Arkansas defense that has talent, sure, but one that can be susceptible to the pass. More on that momentarily. And while the Irish surely want to establish that incredible run game once again, you start to wonder, 3 games in, if there is even a thought to getting the ball to Greathouse more consistently. In watching this show, and again, thank you for the constant feedback and the growing audience, that I am a huge fan of Jaden Greathouse. Huge. Going back to his high school days. But now it's going to be curious to see what the plan is moving forward, especially as this Irish offense as a whole seems to be in a solid place with the likes of Fields, Eli Raritan, Jordan Faison, Will Pauling, all carving out nice roles in the passing game. The addition of a consistent Greathouse would only make them more lethal. But will it happen? I suppose we will see. But it's been a bit of a surprise. Maybe there's a lack of rapport, lack of relationship there. I use that word between quarterback, receiver, C.J. Carr, Jaden Greathouse. He seems to have fallen more in love with Malachi Fields. It's been great to see. Eli Raritan's done his job. You carved out some places for Will Pauling last week. Obviously, Jordan Faison went off using his speed and after-catch ability. But you just start to wonder if we're going to see it. Now, it's only 3 weeks, but it's a noticeable absence across 3 weeks. So it's going to be one to absolutely be worth keeping an eye on. You talk about some of the matchups that you'll see this week, and again, noon Eastern time start, ABC, Notre Dame, Arkansas, meeting football for the first time. So you're going to have the Arkansas offense against the ND defense. Interesting storylines there, and then obviously the Notre Dame offense going up against the Arkansas defense. From a Notre Dame defensive perspective, Marcus Freeman said in his recent presser that the Irish have not been consistent with their approach when bringing the pressure. Quote, "We're not getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands fast enough." That's what he said in his most recent press conference. If we're going to bring pressure, we have to get home. And boy, are those undeniable factual statements. The Irish, whether from the first or second level, simply haven't done that. They have not been, they've been wildly inconsistent in that regard. Now, was it improved in parts of the Purdue game as compared to games 1 and 2? Sure. But is it where it needs to be? Obviously not. Marcus Freeman knows that. And this week, with the likes of Devontae Smith and Leonard Moore still listed as questionable, causing disruption for Arkansas quarterback Taylon Green, who can push the ball down the field with his arm and hurt you badly with his legs, is going to be paramount. The Irish simply can't let Green, who tossed for over 300 in last weekend's loss to Memphis, but also has over 300 on the ground for the season, you can't let this kid have an eternity in the pocket. If they're this to me is the one thing here about taking that aggressive approach on defense. If you're passive and out of position like they were when Marcel Reed torched them to the tune of 41 points in week 2 and was basically toying with them for the first half, or when Carson Beck picked them apart consistently for the opening 2.5 quarters of the Miami game, it could spell trouble. It's going to create trouble. I think we'd all agree that the Irish offense has shown how lethal it can be, but do we want shootouts every week? Absolutely not. From a numbers perspective, the Irish defense here is going to see a Razorbacks offense. That's legit. 6th and 3rd down conversion percentage. They're doing that to a 62% clip. 15th in scoring offense, 43 a game. 15th in passing offense, almost 325 a game. And 20th in rushing offense to almost 230 yards on the ground per game. Those numbers are tremendous. And the Arkansas line, oh, by the way, has been much improved from a unit that had trucked out there a season ago. That's made a positive difference for them as well. This is going to be a challenge for Notre Dame this weekend, but with undeniable talent all over the field, it would be beyond outstanding to see this group rise up to the challenge on a consistent basis for the first time this season. I think that's fair. It's not going to be easy. In addition to Green, Arkansas's got pass catchers, Omega Blake, Rohan Jones, Jalen Brown. That's a kid I really like. They're going to be tough matchups on the outside. In addition to Green's legs, Mike Washington Jr. is a load back there as well. So you're going to have your hands full. Freeman's defense is going to need to be aggressive and on point this weekend. Arkansas did turn the ball over 3 times a week ago against Memphis. You've got to make them uncomfortable and put them into compromising positions. Do that, and perhaps we'll start to see the complete team, the complete defensive unit we expected coming into the season. So flipping from Arkansas's offense versus Notre Dame's defense to the NDO versus the Arkansas D, when the Irish have the football, they'll see an Arkansas defense that has been susceptible to the passing game. They've also been wildly inconsistent in the tackling department, and that was something, I don't know whether you saw it or not, that Sam Pittman, their head coach, addressed in his most recent press conference. The Hogs secondary is giving up over 210 yards passing and more than 11 yards per reception. So again, for the Irish, with the early establishing of that running game, we should see more of Mike Denbrook dialing up that rising Carr-Fields relationship. Getting Raritan involved will be in the cards as well. On the ground, it's an Arkansas group that's had its fair share of issues as well. The unit gives up over 55 yards per game, I should say. Last week, in Memphis's comeback victory, the Tigers ran for 290 yards and just had fun with the Arkansas ground defense, by the way. I mean, if you saw the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Memphis gets the late turnover to ultimately ice the game, but they were running the ball at an impressive clip against this Razorback defense. And you talk about Arkansas's passing game a couple of weeks ago in a close loss to a good Ole Miss team. The Razorbacks gave up 357 yards passing and 118 rushing. So what does this all mean? Well, conventional wisdom tells you the Irish are going to have opportunities to move the football and put points on the board. The balance Notre Dame had last week, 280 yards combined passing from Carr and Minchie, plus another 254 on the ground, was incredible. That's exactly the formula that will give a defense like Arkansas fits. It's going to give them problems. If you're able to balance out that attack, now from top to bottom, Arkansas is a better team on both sides of the ball than Purdue. But Notre Dame's approach last week was perfect. You started the game with a bang, a 66-yard play action, Carter Fields touchdown, boom. We're rolling. Now we're ready to go. Now you need that support from the defense, of course, but then the Irish had that run game going, and it opened up more of the passing game and the balancing out of the numbers. It was the best game that Mike Denbrock has called 3 weeks into this season. I think we'll see something even closer to that moving forward, now that Notre Dame's offense has a blueprint. But wouldn't it be nice to see a complete offense, defense, special teams effort from our beloved Gold and Blue? Damn right it would be. See you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, go Irish.